What's up guys, it's Zero here, and today we're finally starting the Naraka tier list. Now I have been kind of shaky on doing this tier list because one, I don't want to have to redo it based on buffs or nerfs that they may get in the future. Now it's obviously possible that that will happen on release or a little after release, so we will probably update this maybe like 6 months after the release of Naraka, but until then we're gonna go based off of what we know now. There is something that we have to talk about from the get-go, is that Kurumi did get nerfed recently. Basically her F ability no longer heals her. She can only revive her teammates, give them an attack boost or a defense boost, and then the healing that they get from her ward is actually reduced. The video they showcased on this nerf, I think it was like plus 50 every second or every couple of seconds. So with that being said, in terms of solos and Kurumi, her healing ward is gone. Like, she does not have it. It's specifically a teleport ability now, at least when it comes to solos. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start the tier list. Now, I think the first character to drag is obviously going to be Kurumi, since we just talked about her. And personally, I believe Kurumi is easily going to be in the A tier. Now, in the past, based off of her heal alone, I would have thrown her into S tier, but with the nerf coming, we kind of have a big question mark. Because we don't know how the buffs will be applied. It could be like a 15-second buff based off of just dropping the umbrella. It could be a 10-second buff. It could be a 5-second buff. Like, this is information we really don't have right now. So it's really hard to gauge her at this point. I want to put her in S tier. Actually, fuck it. We'll put her in S tier because her survivability, even without the healing, is kind of insane. Because you got to remember, for Kurumi to teleport, she just has to set her umbrella and basically run away from it. If she's in the middle of getting hit, she can left click to teleport at any point in time. There's not a situation where you're too staggered to the point where you can't teleport. I've never at least had that happen. Actually, let me take that back. If you get shot in the head by a bow on a full charge, you will actually get staggered to the point where you can't teleport, I'm pretty sure. But other than that, like getting hit by a melee weapon or something like that, you can just teleport whenever you want. And then on top of that, she has her rapid healing ultimate, which I think is her number 3 in terms of ultimates, but basically that heals 50% HP, and on top of that you basically get like 50% armor. I think it varies depending on what armor you obviously have. So if you have gold, 50% is going to look a little different, but at the end of the day, you know, that heal is pretty dramatic, mainly due to the fact that if you're getting attacked and you pop that ult, it has a hyper armor with every other ult too. So that becomes a situation where if you know, for example, you're going to get hit by this focus attack, there's just no way in hell you're not going to. You pop that ult, you hyper armor through it, and you punish them for getting ulted. Like, there's so many situations that I've seen, even with her ult, that people focus attack charge because they think they can catch her at the end of it, and they get full parried after that, and they're like, what the fuck, and they get murdered for it. So Kurumi's got a lot of mix-up potential. Her survivability is pretty crazy. Even without her healing, I think her survivability is pretty crazy. And the crazy thing is, we're not even talking about trios yet, because I think in trio she's even stronger. But we're not doing the trio tier list yet, so we'll let that slide. But yeah, I think Kurumi is a really strong character. And I think the next character that has to be talked about is Matari, because I mentioned her. Matari, I think, is an A tier character. I think Kurumi outdoes a Matari player in a lot of situations based on her ultimate. Yeah, Matari can go invisible. Yeah, she can teleport. Every other ability she has is trash except for group stealth, because group stealth helps out trios. And I'm not going to like put this under the bus. Group stealth is fucking broken in trios. That's all I'm gonna say. Especially if they run multiple Mataris, that's fucking GG. Don't even attempt. Just run away. It's ridiculous. That's I can't stress that enough. That shit is ridiculous. Like, whew. But yeah, when it comes to Matari, I think her teleport, being able to like teleport in the air, left, right, behind someone, is the strongest part of her teleport. However, if you're the guy that's trying to charge up a teleport, 9 times out of 10, or actually not even 9 times, I'd say like 8 times out of 10, you're going to get shot out of your teleport if you're trying to charge it so you can go further. The reason I say this is because you're curled up in a ball and you become a fat target, and that's just easy to hit. And another reason why I think her teleport isn't that great is because, again, Kurumi drops her umbrella down, she sprints away from it, and at any point in time she can teleport back even while getting hit. With Matari, she can fumble trying to teleport while getting hit, and it starts to become very inconsistent, and you can't really heavily rely on it. Plus, you'd never really want an inconsistent character. Like, at least to me, you wouldn't, especially in high level play, and that could be a result of win or loss based off of one situation, like an inconsistent teleport. So that's why I put Matari at A. Next up is Viper, where I'm going to put her is in B tier. Now, Viper is a character where she has a very high skill ceiling. She is not a character you can jump in and just start winning every single game with. A lot of people figure out that she doesn't have a lot of utility, and then people actually main her and they figure out she's got a lot of utility. The problem is though, Viper is a character where if you don't know, you'll get destroyed. If you know, you know, and you'll win a lot of your matches versus Viper. However, if you play against a Viper that has extremely strong core knowledge of the game before the character, meaning basically they like know the melee weapons, they know the range weapons, and then they know your character and other characters, and then they know their character by heart as well, that guy is going to be a strong player. And I think the first person that obviously comes to mind is Jaxi, and even then he doesn't play Viper in a way where he's playing pure aggression. He uses Viper in a defensive fashion and then plays Naraka in an aggressive fashion, if that makes sense. So basically you use the core gameplay to your advantage, and then when you're at a disadvantage, then you start utilizing what Viper can do. You can play Viper in aggressive situations, but not all the time, and that also depends on characters you're playing against. You know, you don't want to rush down a character and then when you start getting beat, the only thing you can do is use like her F ability, which either causes a knockdown or you can't use skills or ultimates for about 8 seconds. However, using that ability specifically, they actually can't get interrupted when doing a blue attack for 8 seconds, which is the diminishing return of using that ability. It sucks, but it is what it is. And then next up for Viper is her ultimate. Her ultimate is strong. However, if you know, you know. Meaning if you have Phantom Step, it's a little bit easier to dodge out of that situation. If you lose line of sight, again, losing line of sight isn't hard. I think you can just run behind a building and you're good to go. Jump inside of a building, crouch a little bit, play the jump in and out of building game. You'll get out of that situation pretty quick. You can also run out of the distance of her line of sight. So that's a win situation for you. Like, she's so vulnerable in her original ultimate state. So I don't know. I can't really give her props on her ultimate, and that even goes without saying. If again Matari's invisible, she can completely instantaneously get out of line of sight, and then Karumi can umbrella out of that situation. So there's too many things that can counter her ult, and there's too many vulnerable situations where her ult sucks. However, she does have some variations like Seal, for example, where people can't use their ult or skills during the summoning process, and it also stuns for 2 seconds. This is insane because if you wanted to play the defensive route, you could literally back off while ulting and then go for a heal during those 2 seconds. Or you could use the other one, which is people cannot use their skills or ultimate during the summoning process. However, there's no stun, but she can also move freely, and it takes 5 seconds to summon. So that means she can heal during this entire process, which is almost like a baity situation, because if you don't remember the colors of the variations, it's gonna screw you over. You're gonna be like, wait a minute, I didn't get stunned, fuck. And that means they're already reset and ready to fight you again. That exact situation actually happened me versus Jaxi, and that ultimately taught me, okay, I need to learn the color variations, and on top of that, I need to know when I can rush down a Viper and when I can't. And ultimately, once you learn that, then that's another situation where you probably have a winning scenario, or you'd have more of an advantage under that situation. That's why I feel like Viper has more of an uphill battle winning solos versus a lot of other characters, and that's why I would also say she has a high skill ceiling. Other people would probably disagree because they get stunned more often. They're like, oh, it's broken. But again, if you get around it, it's not a broken scenario. It's just kind of like, it is what it is, and that's it. So yeah, I think Viper is easily a B tier character, and I wouldn't budge her any further up or lower, to be honest. I know a lot of people think Viper is like a super crazy tier character, but I completely disagree. Next up is Sandboy. Now this is gonna be controversial, but I think Sandboy is actually an S tier character. The reason is towards the end of the final beta for Naraka, we saw players like Pubi and Q-Taco shine super hard with this character to the point where it showed so much potential for this character. And on top of that, I die by this character more than any other character in the game, especially in like the crazy 1v1 scenarios. So the thing that comes first is Zephyr Wisps, which basically protects you versus projectile weapons, except for explosive weapons. So cannon or swarm will hit you, but anything else won't hit you, which is a big issue because that's half your game plan. Obviously most people go for melee weapons and then ranged weapons. However, if you do go for the melee route after you realize he has this up, he can throw those wards at you and it causes a whirlwind, which is basically a CC ability, and it lasts for 3 seconds. So if you get hit by it, he can get free damage off. So now engaging this character all together from one ability becomes very risky. On top of that, he's got a different variation where he can throw the wisps and it'll literally follow you, and you can kind of like debate it and kind of like run behind a building and it'll hit the building and not hit you, or you can run behind a pillar. If you aim it right, then it'll hit the pillar. However, if you're close to the whirlwind, when it procs, you will get caught into it, and that's kind of the other like inconsistency about the follow version of it. However, if it hits you, it hits you, and it having like that 50-50 chance is pretty dangerous, because again, it'll follow you, and then if it procs and just randomly it connects to you, you're fucked. So that being the way it is just kind of insane. And then the other one is it can penetrate enemies, so it can go through an enemy, bounce off like the floor and go right back into him. That's kind of a baiting situation, so it's like, oh it missed, that's weird, and then you get caught. I've never really been hit by that one, so I have nothing to really say to that, but it's kind of cool the way it works. I've seen people get hit by it, but I've never been hit by it, so can't really speak on that one. But the tracking one has hit me at times where it just should never have connected. So in terms of CC potential, this man hits S like from like the start. Like, this ability alone is strong. Now when you jump into his ultimate, he gets even stronger. It basically blocks all ranged attacks and it slightly knocks people back. So if you're near the inside of when he procs, or he starts up his ultimate, you get knocked down a little bit. It's not really a knockback, it's more of a stagger. And on top of that, if you're outside the dome when it first procs, you get staggered. However, if he summons it and you get inside the dome, like the sand part of the dome, you're actually basically getting a slow debuff, and you can't attack and you can't defend yourself in the scenario. So again, that causes him to have free CC potential and free damage. This is the problem with him, because that ends up being very strong, and if there's multiple of these characters on the field, it becomes even harder to play against this character. His other version, Summon, which generates Zephyr wisps, and if you guys remember, I've already read you the variations of the wisps, and on top of that, the fact that you can even get them back in the first place by just ulting is insane. So again, this character to me is S tier based off concept and based off of just the way he can play. I think when a lot of people die by this character, they're just like, what the fuck happened, and they really don't like process like this character is just fucking strong, because every time he's into play and there's like multiple people around, it's such a clusterfuck. And this happens even in trios, and if it happens in solos and there's multiple of this character, it becomes even more of a clusterfuck for everyone on the field. And then if it's just a 1v1, it's still a clusterfuck, because he's going in and out of his own dome, he's sitting in his dome getting a free reset. Like, there's just so many scenarios this guy can play with and just kind of juggle those in the air, and it's ridiculous. But yeah, I think game plan wise, ability wise, he just has like some of the strongest utility in the game, and his utility, it can be used aggressively and defensively, and that really matters, and that shines really hard for this character. So to me, I think it's an easy S tier character. I know people will disagree with this one, but I feel like 100% he's definitely like the model S tier character, except for Miss Yoto, which we haven't gotten to play her in NA, but we do know her skill set and ability set will be more on the aggressive side of things. So she'll be up there with the Sand Boy and the Fire Boy, but until then, we don't know how she plays yet, except for the fact that she has aggressive abilities. Only time will tell when it comes to that. However, the next character on the list is Monk Boy, and I think the Monk is probably the worst character in solos that you could pick for solos, and I would put him in Do Not Do This to Yourself. Now, the people who are a fan of this character, I'm not here to like cater to you guys or make you happy or anything like that. This character is fucking trash. He's a cool ass concept. He's probably one of the coolest concepts in the game. I've never played a game where I could literally become a boss fight. I thought that shit was insane when I first saw it, and then I played him and I was wasting my time. I did not like playing this character. It's not fun to play him. It feels like an uphill battle every time I fight someone with this character. I just did not enjoy it. In 1v1 scenarios, he's easy to kill, especially if there's buildings nearby. On top of that, unless you have the most perfect aim in the game with his hand throwing, you're not going to be consistent with this character. He's really hard to play with in his ultimate form. It's easy to fumble up like doing certain things with him as well. And when it comes to his F ability, it's just not a good enough ability. Like his F ability is like a universal thing that everyone has. It's either a parry, which everyone has. It's a knockback, which allows you to do light attack spam, which isn't that insane because the third attack is either going to be a focus attack, a crouching rising attack, crouching left to click, or you're going to do the focus attack and get parried. You know what I mean? Like there's just not a lot of options off of that one situation. I mean, I guess you have to like basically force someone to play core Naraka at that point, and I think that's a cool concept, but I feel like other than that, he doesn't really have much going for him. I do think one of his Bell abilities should have been, since he is technically a boss fight, his knockback should be knocking people back way further than it does, because he's a fucking boss fight. He should be super powerful. You know what I'm saying? So when he summons that bell, that shit better throw me. You know what I mean? And even then, like, fuck the bell ability, like he's technically a boss fight. You know what I mean? Like utilize some of the boss mechanics, like allow him to grab somebody and throw them, or allow him to like throw a hand as a base ability and it like pushes them back, or he can like grab them like towards him and then start a combo or some shit. Like I don't know, I just feel like they could do like miniature abilities with him based off of what his ultimate technically is. They could do some crazy creativity shit with him, but all we have is a bell, and I think his bell is just trash. I don't think it's good by any means. I love the devs of this game, but this character design is, I don't like him. I think he's just a trash character. I think he gets beat by almost every character in the game. If he ults, everybody in solo literally turns their head and they're like, holy shit, is that Kirito? You know what I mean? Like everyone in the game, like everyone in the server basically turns their head and they're like, is that a monk? That's a monk. Mine. Like they like everybody wants to kill him when he ults because it's a free kill. Like anyways, next character and last character is Fireboy. Fireboy, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out here now, because on release I plan on maining him. The reason is I think his Giga Flame and Vulcan, along with Giga Flame, which basically allows him to Giga Flame for days, I think that's a cool combo and everything, but people missed the mark with Frenzy and also missed the mark with I think it's like Pyroblast or something like that. But even without that, you could do Giga Flame and Frenzy. So Frenzy basically increases his attack power, and every time he hits someone, it builds up his rage, right? And on top of that, you know, his ultimate basically gives him crazy agility. So you throw those things together, you have a character that can play core Naraka 10 times better than every other person in the game. Like period. Like he could go literally insane in terms of combo potential. Imagine having like a gold katana, you pop this and you have Frenzy up too. Are you fucking kidding me, bro? And pretend you had Soul Slash, like you'd be murdering people in like 2 shots, or not even 2. That probably is a 1-shot situation. I don't know if people have tested this, but I feel like this man should be an S tier. Like he's potentially an S tier character if what I'm thinking works, like Frenzy along with his high agility, and then you could throw Inner Fire in there, because that means you would basically be unstoppable in like core Naraka, because you'd be able to pop Inner Fire, which you do have reduced damage when you're in that state, and basically you get a free counter attack, and on top of that you would have Frenzy available, which means on top of your counter attack you're doing a fuck ton of damage. So I think he's potentially an S tier character. I think he's got potential to unlock 100%, but I have to put him in A because I don't know if what I'm thinking is actually really strong. Because I remember in the last video that we did, there was a guy that I fought that actually had Frenzy available. His damage was crazy, but the thing is, I didn't realize if you parry him when he's in his ult, he recovers like in a snap of a finger. It's insane on how fast he recovers, and I never knew he could do that. So now that I do know that, I feel like since I like playing core Naraka more than anything, I may have to jump back to my favorite character from the original beta. So I'm gonna put him at A, because Giga Flame and Vulcan is extremely strong in solos, and it's extremely strong in trios. I think it's stronger in trios than it would be in solo, because when he is doing his old Giga Flame shit, if you're shooting fireballs in the air and I shoot like 2 arrows in your fucking dome, you're going to be panicking. You're not going to be still shooting fireballs, you know what I mean? And I've done that to multiple people that are really good with this character, but I don't think they've ever had someone that prefers the range game and they get shot down in the middle of doing their whole I am Zuko the Fire Prince or whatever. So I think Giga Flame Vulcan, pretty strong combo. A lot of people utilize it. Other than that, his whole Inner Fire, without the concept that I was thinking with Frenzy, Inner Fire by itself isn't that great. And Pyroblast, I don't know if I named that right. I don't know if I was sleepy while making this, but it says Pyroblast Bide. But basically he does the same thing as Inner Fire, but if you do successful blocks, basically he can do multiple counter hits, and the more you hit, the more powerful it gets, and it lasts 5 seconds. So that means he sits in this state for 5 seconds, and you guys keep hitting him over and over and over. He gets multiple counter hits and they do more damage. And imagine having Frenzy available along with this. We're doing mad fucking damage. So yeah, I think Frenzy may be a key to unlocking another side of the Fireboy, but I don't think a lot of people have utilized it to see the full potential of it. So that's going to be my goal on release. I think this may actually be my solo character on release based off of that alone, because again, I love core Naraka. I love doing the whole melee shit and not having to like mainly lean on my abilities. And I think this character would keep me very honest. So I don't know. I think he's a potential S character, but as he is right now, a lot of people haven't unlocked that full potential. I think he sits at A. But yeah, that's my tier list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's going to be somewhat controversial. I know somebody else made a tier list as well. I would love to do a reaction video to that because I love other people's opinions, but I would have to get some kind of permission from the creator for that. So that could happen. That may not happen. But yeah, what's next is going to be the weapon tier list. I think that'll be way quicker to do because I already know the weapons in and out, so I can do that in like 5 seconds or 5 minutes. But the character tier list was kind of hard because I was already conflicted on certain characters. So I agree with people for feeling indifferent. I already know the comments are going to be kind of like, what the fuck, you think this character is what the fuck? Like, I already know, you don't have to tell me. But this is truly how I feel about certain characters. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you did, definitely give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.
Make a wish, take your time and decide what's right. Can't you see?